it was really a moment to, again, I guess, think about what was important, what I wanted to get out of my life, what I wanted to spend my time doing. So it's been a really valuable time, I guess, to be able to refocus and plan ahead, and actually just really appreciate where I am in the world. I'm in a pretty amazing place and I'm incredibly grateful for it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. What does it mean to be a hospo lifer? It can mean obtaining a wealth of skills and experience and ability to travel, but for many, a career in hospitality has limited their work-life balance. But for some, being a hospo lifer, it can mean you can find a job that adapts to the sort of lifestyle you want to live. Has this period of time allowed many in the industry the chance to find equilibrium? Bronwyn Kabboord is a restaurant manager of Fermier in Trentham, Victoria. Bronwyn, how are you going?
I'm fantastic, thank you. I'm very excited that today I get to do service without a mask on for the first time in many months. So I am that kid in the candy store today. Very excited.
Wow, it's an amazing development, and Melbourne and Victoria has been on the most incredible and frightening ride for quite a few months now. What's it feel like at the moment where you are?
Well, exciting. It feels really positive. I feel like we've been a bit spoilt being regional compared to all of our mates in the city. They've done an incredible job to get us to where we are now in Victoria. So we're feeling really positive and hopeful, and looking forward to what's ahead.
We've been talking to a lot of people in the industry that have realised the lack of work-life balance in their lives, and this period of time has shone a light on that. Can you tell us a bit about your working experience? Because you worked that out a few years ago and tried to pull that together.
Yes, certainly. Having a restaurant that was all-consuming, there wasn't really a day off. I really got to the point of needing to find something where there was that balance. There was time spent with family and friends and doing things that were really important to me. So I guess I kind of got lucky finding Annie and finding a job where, I mean, it may not be for everybody, but having a job that is lunches 4 days a week, a day that is given to admin and preparing yourself for the week is pretty special, and it's been able to give me the opportunity to do things that I'm really passionate about and spend time on other loves, really.
Can we talk about the lead up to that revelation? Because your partner Rob was at Key as the head chef at the time, and you were running Merrycoat in Melbourne. What were the challenges involved in that?
It was tough. It was tough seeing each other essentially once a fortnight. We're so lucky the Sydney-Melbourne flying route is what it is. It was pretty quick getting backwards and forwards, but it's really hard when you're both deep in what you're doing, in jobs that were all-consuming and took all your energy. So we'd have to really concentrate when we spent time together to make it about us and reconnecting every time. But I think also we were lucky that I guess our relationship allowed us to both follow jobs and have a career, doing things that we were passionate about. We had the space and time to be able to do it. But yeah, it was really tough. I think I did Merrycoat by myself for 2.5 years. I just think without the incredible people that were around us in that restaurant, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, I was incredibly lucky with that. So, and Rob would sort of help from afar, but it was a little tough when he obviously had a position that was in such an incredible restaurant that's really busy and changing all the time.
Before Rob moved to Key back in the days when you sort of started Merrycoat, What did it take to pull together a business like that, and the personal energy required? What sort of impact did it have on you guys?
Um, it was it was really intense. We opened that business in 2011 on a shoestring. We've sort of rubbed our pennies together. We'd sort of got to the point we'd been managing other venues, and I think we sort of got to the point of, maybe it's time to do our own thing together. I had done something in Sydney with a couple of friends. We look, personally, it was a really intense time. We had just discovered that we were unable to have a family after waiting quite a period to find the right time. So we really probably threw ourselves into that business, throwing everything at it, making it all about the guests, trying to give them an experience that was, what we really envisioned hospitality to be. So it was, we painted ourselves, we sanded chairs, we made it happen with what we had, and it was one of those experiences that we kind of we worked really hard at creating a space that we were really proud of. So it was hard, but it was really rewarding. It was an experience that I think at the time we probably didn't look after each other as much as we needed to, but certainly once we sort of settled into it and we found our groove with the story we were trying to tell and the experience we were giving, we were proud of what we did.
Can you tell us a bit about that restaurant, because it was something different, a bit special for Melbourne? What were you doing there?
It was a bit quirky. It had animal napkin rings, and it had a rickety old cheese trolley that we'd picked up for less than $100 at Bunnings, and it trundled around, and it didn't have a bar as such. It was really like walking into someone's living room. That we really wanted to remove that divide and just, it's like coming in and having a big hug. So Rob being Dutch, the food sort of was a bit tongue-in-cheek towards things that he would eat as a child. His grandmother's um, pig's head soup, and he'd sort of elevate it to a more modern dining experience. But it really, yeah, it was an experience for people that had Dutch heritage, that would try things they'd sort of heard about or they'd had as with their grandparents, I guess. But it was also about wines from further afield that were maybe things people hadn't tried before. We're both big fans of beer, so I'd had a big beer list. But it was, I think, one of those restaurants that you could only get away with if you don't have a backup, really. It was something that was financially just driven by us. So if Rob wanted to get in some amazing product and it was totally ridiculous, it didn't matter. We just, we just made it work. So yeah, it was definitely, I think, what we saw as, an experience for people to come and sort of be in our living room, try things they hadn't tried before, and get to know, I guess, a little bit about what we're passionate about.
Very early on in the series, I think around about episode 4 or 5, we spoke to Annie Smithers, and she sort of talked about the value and the importance of that work-life balance. You've got many friends in the industry. What are some of the issues that you see for hospitality workers in trying to obtain that?
Oh, well, I think the industry itself, is predominantly driven by night services. So, if you have a partner that isn't, or friends that aren't in hospitality, it's hard to find the time to spend with them, and keep those friendships and relationships going, and trying to find. I think also the having the days off that you can go to events and family celebrations and things like that. I think it's really tough to find the balance in a job that can afford for you to have those times and those spend that time with family, really.
You describe your job as a unicorn job in the hospitality industry. How much have you changed personally in obtaining that sort of balance? Has it made a big difference to your life?
Absolutely, huge difference. It is literally the unicorn hospo job. I'm a very lucky girl. It's it's the best. It's huge. It's the things that you know. I mean, country life may not be for everybody, but I have a dog and cats and chickens and 5 acres to try and keep in some sort of respectable state. So it's really been an experience unlike any other I've had in this industry. It's people also make the trip. It's a weekend away. They're just coming into another world, really, which is what Du Fermier feels like to me. It's tiny, it's intimate, and we spend a couple of hours together um, while people enjoy the spoils of Annie's garden and have a beautiful lunch and then I get to go home and do other things. Like it's so weird. It's fantastic.
You've done many things in your career, but how did you first get interested in food and start in the hospitality sector?
I grew up in country Victoria with parents that suggested a trade would be a good way to go because you'll always have a job. So, food not being that important, I started my chef's apprenticeship in the country at the ripe old age of 16 and spent 2 years in the country before moving. I just decided it was time to go to the big smoke and take on new adventures. So for some reason, I decided Sydney was a better option than Melbourne. Um, and I'm not sure why. And then spent 2 years finishing my apprenticeship, working in a little seafood restaurant and then in hotels. Um, and then the opportunity, I was part of a group training network as an apprentice. I think my mum was sort of thought it was good as an 18-year-old to have a bit of guidance, and had won their Apprentice of the Year back in 1994, I think it was now. And the opportunity arose to go to Japan. It was the season before the Winter Olympics, and they were very keen to have foreigners come into the restaurant and the hotel and help them acclimatise, I guess, to the experience that they were about to have. So it was amazing I think I was almost 21, spending time in a kitchen, the only foreigner, couldn't speak a word of Japanese, learned to eat a bowl of ramen really quickly, um, 15-minute lunch breaks. But it was such an amazing opportunity, and I sort of spent 2 years time there, and then also north of Tokyo. Uh, I randomly ended up leaving hospo for a moment because it was really hard to sort of learn. I think we've all seen Jiro dreams of sushi, and it's true. They study for 10 years before they have the opportunity to go and um, do certain dishes. So I guess as a younger chef, it was kind of frustrating to not get those opportunities. But so I ended up teaching English to kinder kids for 12 months, which was, I don't even know how I fell into that, but it was it was great. It was yeah, I had an amazing experience with those children, and then headed off to London. Most of us all thought that was the place to be, and spent, I think it was 2 years working in hotels. I met Rob in my first job there. So we sort of spent a couple of years there. I was on a working holiday visa before we came back to Australia. But then I was cooking at Bathers Pavilion. That was my last cooking job. I had an amazing sommelier there, Sally Harper, who started to show me wines, and the way she communicated about it just sort of opened up a whole new world to me. So I actually left the kitchen. I ran the front of house, well, the shop for the pastry chef that I worked for at Bathers. They opened up in Mossman, and that was really great. That was actually a really good work-life balance there. I'd so I had 4 days on and 3 days off, and I think that was where the love of being with people and communicating with them and giving them experiences grew from. So I opened up a restaurant with two friends. We sort of threw ourselves into that, a tiny little place. It had a terrible name called Alchemy 731. We just we didn't really think that one through, but it was fun. It was the cheapest education I've ever had in regards to learning things about restaurants, front of house, and just industry mates that sort of banded together and helped us do it. It was a great experience.
Has your time in the back of house working as a chef helped you in the front of house now that you're a professional restaurant manager?
Absolutely. I think understanding one, how dishes are constructed, the thought process between what goes on the plate, how elements are brought together is really important to be able when you talk, especially in an environment that I'm in now where you're talking about what's on the plate and where it's come from, and obviously choosing wine to go with it. It certainly helps the process for sure.
Do you miss being in the kitchen?
No, no. Definitely not. Definitely not. I was behind Annie's stove the other day and I was so claustrophobic. I was like, get me out of here. So, no, I don't miss it, but I have a lot of respect for chefs for sure.
What does it take to create great hospitality in the restaurant in the front of house for guests?
I think the ability to listen to a guest is so underrated. I think maybe COVID has sort of brought this to a head as well. But I think that first couple of minutes or that first 30 seconds even, it's the catching someone's eye, knowing that you see them, that they know that they're there, that you're there to look after them, and inviting them in with a big smile, and just listening to them when they're talking about what they want, or whether it's a wine, or if they're talking about things that they don't eat, or it's just really listening to what they want and grasping it, and giving them the experience that they're looking for. I think it's so important to listen to them and to take them on a journey, really.
You've worked in a business with Rob, your partner, but you've also worked in different businesses in the hospitality sector. Are there pluses and minuses of both for you?
Yeah, it's funny when we sold Marycoat, there was initial thought to find something bigger, something with a bar and a dining room. I think we'd been at Bones in Paris back in when it was open, and loved how those spaces work together. Um, but it's funny. I think certain people. I've been thinking about it. Some businesses suit people more than others. I'm definitely suited to a smaller, intimate venue. Mates that need that big city buzz, amazing fit out and what that brings, and others that suit a wine bar with giggles over the bar and sharing a glass of something. I think I think finding your place is actually really important, and what suits you.
Have there been some challenges, given that you both work in the industry, and trying to find time for each other when the industry requires so much energy and also so many hours?
For sure. Yeah, it does. I mean, I feel like I've got it really easy now. So, but in the past, yeah, it is hard to make sure you find that time for each other. I mean, one of our greatest loves is to be in a dining room and enjoy someone else's hospitality. So that would always be a really great opportunity for us to reconnect, talk about what's happening, plan for what was coming up. So yeah, we made a very conscious effort, particularly I think once Rob went to Key, to find that time to really make sure we had that time to connect.
You mentioned at the top of the show how excited you are about not wearing a mask and the developments that have been happening in Melbourne and everything opening up. Do you think the experiences of this year are going to change the Melbourne and Victorian dining landscape?
Definitely. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. I feel what we've been through, I think as Victorians, we've certainly become closer. I think we're pretty damn proud of ourselves at the moment. But I think on an industry level, it's a bit scary. I just think I see all the empty shops. Um, you know, what's going to happen in 6 months' time? Who's going to be around? You know, but maybe it's actually going to be a whole new chapter. We might see these little things like what Maricote was, people able to live their dream because they can get into something, without having to spend as much money. I mean, we couldn't afford, to do what we did now. It costs a lot more to set up and open a business now. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that things will get better, that restaurants will be back on track, and I think it's exciting how people have been thinking about different ways to share their hospitality. I think it's been really exciting to see what happens and how people are looking at things differently.
You managed to transition and find that balance, but it can be difficult for so many because there's so many different lifestyles and different people in the industry. But do you have some advice on how to make that transition and get better balance and equilibrium between work and home life?
I think you have to, I think actually having a short plan, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, is a really good thing to do. I think it's hard in hospitality, but I think if you can think about where you want to be in 3 years' time, and it helps you plan those steps of how to get there. I, it's hard to find the right thing, but it's also, yeah, working out what's the most important thing to you. And I guess maybe it's getting older. I mean, I've just realised that I've been in the industry for 30 years next year, which is amazing. Um, like, oh God, how did I make it? So to be fair, it's taken me quite a long time to work out the work-life balance. But I think you've really got to find something that enables you to have that bit of the time for other things. I mean, it took me this job really to be able to have a balance between the two. So, yeah.
You're a self-described hospo lifer. What do you love about the industry and your place in it?
Oh, it is the best. It's truly my happy place. I think of the conviviality at a table, that little buzz. It's like going to the best metal concert. It's might be classical if that's your thing, but it's just the most incredible experience. I had a moment of it yesterday that it just brings me complete joy. And then traveling through Europe, seeing family, and then always visiting a new wine region and sitting with a winemaker who works his small plot of land by himself, and we can't speak the same language, but we're communicating over this incredible bottle of wine that he's made and its place in the world. It's something that is so unique to this industry that you've never met. He knows you sell his wine, but he's thrilled that you want to come and have an experience and see where he works. So um, it's it's those moments that are so uniquely hospitality that I feel so lucky to have found the career that I did, considering when I started it was kind of about having a job, not a career, and it's been an incredible career to me.
We've seen a lot of interest in regional dining and people traveling a lot because they can't go overseas. What sort of impact has Victorian society opening up had on De Fermier and future sort of bookings?
It was interesting with the lockdowns. We had a period. where there was just regional diners that were allowed. And I think that was lovely for people located around us that were never able to get in because the restaurant is always full. So it was really wonderful to be able to welcome them in and have them enjoy our hospitality. So we've probably had, I'd say, 3-4 weeks. It all seems like a bit of a blur now since we've been able to welcome Melbourne back in, and it's been really special. It's just like welcoming old friends back. So it's great to see things opening up. It's great to see people out in the country again. We've there's lots of people talking about coming from interstate and dying to get back, which is great. So yeah, hopefully moving forward, we'll be welcoming friends from all over again, which will be fantastic.
During this year, a lot of people have talked how the circumstances have changed their perspective on things. You had that big shift a couple of years ago, but has this year changed you?
Yeah, it really has. I think I really had a bit of a tough time during the first lockdown. I think it was we had no idea when we were going to open again. I think the initial conversations, well, what we would see on the news was that it was September, October. We didn't really know. And I felt lost. I couldn't work out my place in it all, where I was going to be, how I just wanted to work because I don't really see it as work. I genuinely love what I get to do every day. It really does bring me complete joy. So it was really a moment to, again, I guess, think about what was important, what I wanted to get out of my life, what I wanted to spend my time doing. So it's been a really valuable time, I guess, to be able to refocus and plan ahead, and actually just really appreciate where I am in the world. I'm in a pretty amazing place and I'm incredibly grateful for it.
You mentioned about trying to get a 3 to 5 year plan in place to not only give you stability, but also a chance to obtain that sort of equilibrium and work life balance. What's the plan for you in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I don't really plan on going anywhere work-wise for the foreseeable future because I am so happy. But I think what I want to do is make sure that I do have continue this balance. Whether or not, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll end up opening something again. Not that I'm planning on it, but I think by doing what I'm doing, opportunities will come, and I think I'm lucky that I get to do what I do pretty much as I wish. So um, I'm excited to just see how things develop, I guess. I mean, Rob's just about to open a new thing, so it's all about him right now, but I'm thoroughly enjoying my country existence. So spending more time at home and doing things there, I think.
You've mentioned quite a few times how much you love the role that you have now, and it's out in Trentham to Fermier. What's so special about that region and that restaurant?
The region's incredible. It's we get the coldest winters. There's some fantastic little producers around us that we're so lucky to work with. And there's a really lovely hospitality community. I mean, Daylesford itself is such a hub for tourists as Trentham is. It's only sort of just over an hour from the city. Um, and there's a really lovely community of hospitality people, and we sort of all support each other, and it's great. Yeah, I it's yeah, it's a really special part of the world that I probably spent a little bit of time in as a child, but growing up in northeast Victoria, it was just visiting for holidays. But I I love what's happening here, and we've got there's saffron growing down the road, and there's truffles the other side of Daylesford. There's lots of exciting things around here. Fantastic wine producers. Yeah, we're very spoiled.
Well, we're fast approaching the end of 2020, and a lot of people are glad to see the back of it. What are you most looking forward to in 2021?
Well, I'd be honest, I would love to be going to Europe. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm really looking forward to seeing friends and family that I haven't had the time to see this year, particularly in other states. That's something I'm so excited about.
Well, Bronwyn, we've loved having you on Deep in the Weeds, and you also gave us a little clue. We're very interested to see what Rob's up to now too. We might give him a call and do a bit of a catch up with him. Um, we've loved hearing your story on Deep in the Weeds. Please keep in touch, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.